Finally! Oh my god, you have no idea how excited I am, how relieved I am. All the suffering, all the annoyances, I'm finally gonna be over it. Oh my god! I said to my friend as I lay down in the bed. My friend on the phone, Sheila, was equally as happy for me, although she was sad that I was going to be leaving. Yeah, but in Minnesota, you might as well be in Canada at that point. Can't you just, like, walk across the border? She said. Yeah, technically I can. Or a drive-through, or whatever. I gotta pass through customs. But yeah, Canada is basically 15 minutes away. Sheila had family in Ontario, so I knew that I would be able to see her as she went up there often to see them. I let out a yawn. My husband and I had been packing for a while. I haven't been able to go to the gym, but packing and running up and down the stairs to prepare things and working on our house has given us more than enough of a workout. So I decided to take an early evening nap. It was only 7 p.m., but I figured this would give me a jump start so I can continue working into the night. I had passed by the kitchen and gotten a drink of water. My cat was lying down on the table. I looked at her as I peeled off my mini shorts. Duchess, you know I don't want you on the table, right? Okay, yeah, but you don't care. The cat meowed back at me. She knew I loved her way too much. Besides, we never eat on that table anyway. I'd be a little bit more concerned if the tank that my hamster was in wasn't chained down and locked. I knew when I wasn't looking, Duchess would always try to find a way to get in there, but it's been 5 months since I've had that hamster, and she's not found a way in. Unless the cat knows how to use the key to open the 2 locks, I was assured knowing that my hamster was safe. The table, which was where I stored my rabbit the last time, an area that she had also shared with the cat, had always been a comfortable spot for Duchess. She could watch the squirrels in the orchard while simultaneously keeping an eye on whatever it was she wanted to eat in the cage or the tank on the table, while not being able to reach it. When my rabbit had been alive, Duchess had managed to open the cage, much to her chagrin. My rabbit was a badass, and she let Duchess know that she wasn't just merely prey. My rabbit had been the size of Duchess anyway, and from then, Duchess learned not to mess with the rabbit. And as a matter of fact, they became good friends. They would run through the house together and play together until it was time for everyone to lie down and go to sleep, and then I would put the rabbit back in her cage, just in case the cat had a turn of heart while I was sleeping. The hamster was much more helpless, but more of an escape artist, but I had nothing to worry about. Little Nedry was running away on his little wheel inside there to his heart's content. Duchess watching him from the side with a keen eye. I'll play with you later, Nedry. I'm gonna go take a nap, okay? I then leaned over to the right where Duchess was sitting in her cat Fink's position, grabbed her floofy little cheeks, and kissed her on the head. My girl, I love you. I went directly in the room where it was nice and dark. My husband had texted me and taken a picture of 2 stacks of bins, asking which one would be better to hold all our electronics. After I pointed to the deeper and more sturdy bin, which was significantly more expensive, something he didn't seem really happy about, I told him I was going to take a nap, and then I laid down on my soft pillow. Some relaxation and quiet, and the land of sleep. I don't know why I woke up, but as I opened my eyes, I was greeted with darkness. Duchess wasn't sleeping next to me. She usually comes after a while to snuggle next to me, and then gets up and patrols the house. I stretched out and then lay down in a fetal position, preparing to get up. My eyes fluttered, seeing if I could adjust to the dark. We had the kind of curtains on our 2 windows that basically blocked out every ounce of light. My husband and I were late-nighters, and so often we'd be going to bed at like 9 a.m. in the morning. Something that I vehemently tried to change for both of us and implored him to change for our sake. My husband was 20 years older than me, and so he was at that age where he was going to have to start making healthy decisions if he was going to stay on this earth for a long time, and I fully intended for that to happen, because he was the best person in the entire world. But I have to admit, it is very confusing on the body when you've been sleeping one way, and you're suddenly trying to change it to sleep the normal way every human should. I yawned once again angrily, not wanting to. I want to stay here, but I have to continue packing. As I was preparing to get up, I felt something on my thigh. I wasn't sure what it was, and at first I registered that it probably was the cat pawing at me because she was hungry, and around this time I'd feed her anyway, but I could have sworn I left enough food, knowing that I was going to sleep for about a few hours. The door was slightly ajar, almost closed, and I could hear a lapping noise. That sounded like Duchess drinking some water. Okay, fine. I know exactly what that sounds like, having lived with this cat for about 7 years. But if Duchess was in the kitchen, what was that on my leg? My very primitive instinct as a human being to swat whatever it was executed perfectly, and my hand hit into something hard but hollow. I heard it smack into the bedroom door, which was only about 2 feet away from the bed. Whatever I swatted away, it hit into the door very hard. It felt and sounded like a hornet or a very large beetle. That is fucking gross. The bedroom is supposed to be a safe haven. I don't want to be waking up with things crawling on my body. That is weird. Now, it might be my fault because I did leave the kitchen window open. This house doesn't have the best air circulation, and where its strength is trapping heat in the winter, it also traps heat in the summer and does not let it go. Unfortunately, in this little house, we do not have central cooling, living up here on the second floor where the heat rises. We have no choice but to open the window, but there is a screen there to prevent very large insects from coming in. Whatever this thing was, had to have squeezed through the very small slit in the screen, and I don't see how that would have been possible. I know what I felt. I felt something crawling on me, and it had more than 2 or 4 legs. It only took a second after all this happened for me to quickly shoot up and turn on the bedside lamp and look down at the ground where, of course, the creature would have fallen. As I picked up my bottle of water, which was the only thing by the bed, my spine tingled momentarily as I realized that there was nothing there. Nothing was on the ground, there was no buzzing, and where I know for certain the insect was supposed to be was just our vinyl tiles. I didn't like that. I did not like that. After I made sure there was nothing immediately at my feet, I shot to my feet and turned on the main bright light. I even turned on my phone's flashlight. I looked everywhere, behind the bed, all around the room, and under the desk in the room. No creature, no beetle, no insect, nothing. It was very weird. I later made a post on my social media asking anybody else if they've ever experienced anything like that, where something just quickly disappears as though slapping it caused it to suddenly experience what was akin to a video game death, quickly blinking out of existence, while simultaneously giving you XP. While I loved video games, I did not like the idea of some random mobs in my room, and I could not identify what it was. What if it had been a black widow? It sure had the mass. And by the sound of the exoskeleton of whatever it was hitting the door, it sounded as though it could have been. I've seen black widows before, and I've had brushes against them. They are stiff creatures, and they look like they're made out of glass. I don't mind tarantulas, but small little creatures like black widows or spiders with pencil tips for legs skeeve me out, and I did not like the idea of that being a possibility that was in our bedroom, and me not having known where it was. Needless to say, I stayed out of the bedroom for a while and kept checking back periodically to see if I could find it. I shook out all the sheets, and just because of my paranoia, I'd washed my pillowcases and my blankets, which was quite annoying because I had just put new sheets on the bed last night. How would it have climbed up on the bed? Nothing was hanging off, unless the creature had the ability to fly, or unless it had been a spider and it wove its way down from the ceiling. I felt like I was going insane. When my husband came home later that night, I told him what happened, and he laughed. I thought he was going to say he didn't believe me, but what he said next actually made me freak out even more. He said a few months ago the same thing happened to him. He was in the bedroom as well, and he felt something crawling on him, and when he swatted it off, it felt like it had some mass. When he looked to see where it would have gone, where he slapped it, there was nothing there, and he never saw anything after that. He had put the bins down that he brought from Lowe's and hugged me gently and kissed me. Who knows, maybe it was a ghost beetle, he said. I guess, I had replied, looking all around the house, now in total paranoia. I did not like not finding things that were obviously supposed to be there. He wasn't worried about it. He reminded me as he lifted my chin up and looked into my eyes that we were moving soon, that this house wouldn't be an issue for us any longer. He's right. We only had a couple of months to be here, and then we'd be out of here. I could survive until then. I could survive until then. Hey babe, could you check my hair just to make sure? I said. He had laughed and went through my huge head of curls. Had my hair been bone straight, I wouldn't have been on edge as much, but since I basically had the same head of hair as the main character from the Pixar movie Brave, I kept having an existential dread that something was hiding in it. My hair was so big it could hide another dimension. After he confirmed that I was insect and critter free, I was able to relax, but only a little while. That nagging sensation that whatever that creature was that had been crawling on me is still somewhere in the house. The next day, even though I still remembered what happened the day before, I was a little bit more calm. I petted Duchess and went into the living room to continue packing stuff. I was watching my favorite show on the big screen TV. I heard a weird scuffling noise. I got up quickly and checked into the kitchen. Okay, good. The hamster cage was still where it's supposed to be, and Duchess was walking around in the kitchen, probably doing something. I went to sit back down and continue packing, and I was laughing at a particular scene. I heard Duchess meow. It was a very strange call I've never heard her make before. Then she scared the skin off of me when she suddenly appeared on the back of the couch. Jesus! Duchess, you trying to kill me? Silly kitty. I went back to packing. Duchess was looking around the room and then started grooming herself. She was doing so a little bit more vigorously. I looked at her again, her white coat glistening under the living room lights like 1,000 stars. You better not have fleas, I said to her as she continued licking her backside. I always loved how cats can fold in on themselves when they're licking their back end, so it looks as though they have no head. She made the weird noise yet again, as though she was annoyed because she couldn't reach a particular spot. Do you want me to help you out there? I asked my cat as she continued ignoring me. I tried to pet her and she hissed at me, something she only does once in a blue moon. She must really not be in the mood. Maybe she has fleas. She's going to need another bath. My cat rarely goes outside, and the only time she did is when we went to get the mail, and she would always stay by our side until we were ready to go back in. Duchess jumped down from the couch, and she landed rough. Of course, I couldn't see her because she landed behind the couch, but she probably missed a step. You okay back there? I said jokingly, knowing that the cat was okay. Duchess released her annoyed meow once again. Meow. It was actually making me concerned. She's had fleas before, but never to the point where she'd be this angry about it. Okay, honey, okay, baby girl, let's give you a bath. I can always pack later, but clearly you're in a lot of pain, and I'm in pain just watching you and hearing you, so come here. Duchess came around the couch. She was walking funny. Did she hurt her leg? Otherwise, she looked fine, but cats do have a habit of masking their pain. But I've seen Duchess sick before, or in pain. I could always recognize the tiny micro-expressions on a cat's face, especially my cat, when she was uncomfortable. The face she wore was just really annoyed, similar to the expression she had when she had been in heat many years ago. Thank goodness we got that taken care of. Wait, cats can't grow back their parts, right? What kind of stupid question was that? Even as I was thinking it, I knew it wasn't possible. I tried to go pick up Duchess. She always let me pick her up, but at that particular moment, she bounded away from me. And when she turned back to walk in the other direction, I could have sworn I felt my heart stop. Duchess's right front leg was gone. All that remained was a very short stump with flaps of skin and flesh hanging from it. I cried out her name in surprise, wanting to hug my cat. I had to get her to the emergency room. I got up quickly to grab her and called out her name. She avoided me, and even with 3 legs, she was able to jump very high up into the china cabinet. And what she did next made me cry. She made that guttural, annoyed cat sound again, and she started eating away pieces of what was left of her leg. I was shocked beyond belief, thinking the worst, that she had actually been the one who ate her leg off. But what would have caused her to do that? Duchess! Duchess, please! Every time I moved the chair to the china cabinet to try and stand up on to get Duchess, she would jump down and collide to another high point in the house. One of the times, she finally jumped down and I was able to catch her, and she quickly sank her teeth down into my arm, but not in a normal way a cat would to try and wriggle away from you. She latched down like a pit bull and would not let go. She kept on moving her head, tilting it from side to side as if she were trying to drive her fangs down into my skin deeper, in very much the same way that venomous snakes do, so they can inject their venom into their prey. I cried out in pain. I loved my cat so much, I couldn't hurt her. Instead, I just held her close, petting her head as she continued sinking her fangs into my arm. I didn't have time to get the crate, and I was scared that I was going to lose my cat. The poor thing was probably in so much pain. I wrapped my poor kitty up in a blanket. I basically had to wrap her around my arm because she was still biting it, as though she were fastened on there. I knew that I could get a lot of germs from a carnivorous animal biting into my flesh, but at that moment all I could think about was saving my cat. When I took her to the vet, they already had a crate ready as I had told them I didn't have one. They had to inject her with something to sedate her, just so they can get her off my arm. It's as if her jaw had been locked onto it. My husband and I were so stressed over the next few days. Luckily, they were able to do surgery. Now she only has 3 legs, but at most she would live. My poor beautiful girl. Waiting for her to get out of surgery was the hardest thing I ever had to do. I didn't know if we were going to lose her. When we brought her home in the car, she was still heavily sedated. She laid on my husband's lap the whole ride home. After all, he was her person. My husband and I were actually talking about what the vet had said. He said, of course, it was very abnormal for a cat to eat their own limbs, and he's never heard of such a case. He gave us about a dozen pills to give her over the coming months, thinking it might be some neurological issue even though we didn't find anything otherwise. He gave us the appropriate doses of medication to not only keep my cat calm, but also to keep her inactive for a while so she could heal. As soon as we pulled up to the house, I thought that we would be relieved. That's not what happened. As soon as we were ready to open the door, Duchess opened her eyes, and she looked at the house. And then all hell broke loose. Even though our cat was under sedation, even though she had been completely out of it only seconds ago, seeing the house, her eyes went wild. She started flailing around. She scratched Anthony, my husband, several times in the face and went after me. She then did a cartwheel into the back seat and stayed there, her hair puffed up. I tried to calm her down. At that moment, I didn't care about my skin or the scratches or the pain. I just didn't want her to hurt herself or to pull out her stitches. Baby, it's okay. What's wrong? Duchess's ears were pasted to the back of her head and neck. She looked wild and would not stop staring at the house. Then, by pure instinct, I started back up the car and backed out of the driveway and drove off. And the further we got from the house is the more relaxed she got. When we came back around the block and got closer, she started getting agitated again. My husband thought this was very weird. She didn't want to go back inside, and this freaked him out. We agreed to let her stay with my husband's brother. He had 2 other cats as well, one of them being a younger kitten. It would probably help with Duchess's peace of mind and her healing process. When we got home, my husband and I talked about what happened. I felt so horrible. Anthony, I don't know what's going on, but that's not normal. She didn't want to go back in the house. Something happened here. Maybe she associates the pain in her leg with here. Maybe she fell. I have no idea what to even make of what's going on. Maybe she can smell something that we can't, he said. I don't know, but it's freaking me the fuck out. Usually if an animal doesn't want to be somewhere, that's a good indication that we should get the hell out of Dodge. I went to check on my hamster. I unlocked the cage, and I stroked the bedding my hamster was buried under. This usually was an indication that I wanted to say hello. Nedry, I called out his name. He usually responded by poking his little nose out through the bedding. If he was in his little makeshift house, he would wiggle his butt through the entrance, which was a very unique behavior for a hamster. But the longer I waited, I didn't see any Nedry. Of course, as with every hamster owner, it is normal that your hamsters are more active during the night. But just in case we are afraid of them dying in the middle of the day and we don't see any response, it is customary to just look. I usually pick up the tank and look under it, and since it's glass, I can see through the bottom. Usually, I'll see his little furry butt and feet and mouth plastered up against the glass. I always felt so naughty doing this because it's as if it was a cheat code, staring into his privacy. I just wanted to make sure he was okay, see if he was breathing. He wasn't there. He's probably in his little cup. I had bought a mug in the shape of a Tyrannosaurus Rex head, and I had used that for pens previously. When I got Nedry, I figured he could use it a lot more than I would. So I cleaned it out and put some soft cotton in there so he could sleep in there if he needed to. He loved sleeping in there, but only once in a while. Only when he needed it to be completely dark in the daytime. I looked in the cup and called his name, wiggling the Timothy hay that was sticking out of it. Nedry, I said. Nedry, I know you're sleeping. I just want to make sure you're okay, honey. No response. Usually, even if he's sleeping, if he heard his name, he would wiggle or at least vibrate on the Timothy hay or the bedding so I could see movement and leave him alone. If he wanted to say hello, he would just stick his head out and come out and say hello to me and climb on my hand. Alright, I'm gonna have to come in. I just want to make sure you're okay, dude. I picked up the cup, and there was nothing in there. That's weird. The tank had been padlocked. How is my hamster not here? I started to panic. I started to gently wash my hands through the bedding. No Nedry. This tank was made of thick glass. There were no openings. The extremely thick wire mesh cover was completely intact. There were no holes or anywhere that Nedry could have gone out of. It would have been impossible unless he turned into liquid. As I was moving my hands around in the bedding, I felt something cold and wet. It was nowhere near his water bottle. When I took my hands out, I saw red. Like, literally saw red on my hands. There was clumps of something sticking to them as well. Oh no. I started to panic, thinking the worst. How? This makes no sense. He could have killed something, but nothing would have been able to get in the tank. I started grabbing with my fingers and not just moving around the bedding. Now, I had to get a container and start putting the bedding from the tank into that container. And something plopped. It was very light, but it was obviously heavier than the bedding that was in there. When I looked, my jaw dropped open in disbelief. It was Nedry. But it was only his head, one of his little forearms, and the top of his torso. His head was contorted in such a way that it peeled backwards, or at least sideways, and his teeth were hooked into a piece of his skin. And from what it looked like to me, he ate himself. I heard a weird noise. Something scurried behind me. The haunting sound reminded me of many legs scurrying across the wood floor. Oh fuck no. I don't know what's in this house, but I know that it's linked to my cat getting hurt and my hamster eating himself. Both my cat and my hamster had the same symptoms. And if it could do this to these small mammals, what could it do to us humans? I told my husband what happened, and I just had a really bad feeling. He didn't ask any questions. We packed what we needed immediately, all of our documents, and we left that house and stayed at his brother's. Later on, I got my brother-in-law's friend, who was in animal control, to come and look at the house and look at the hamster. He also knew about the cat, and said he had never seen anything like this. Not unless the animal was sick or trapped. Both our animals had been happy and healthy. Anybody else we spoke to just thought of it as a freak occurrence from the animals. One of the times I had gone back to the house, I almost jumped out my skin. When I had gone back to pick up some extra stuff, the window had been cracked to let some of the air in so it wouldn't trap heat and encourage mold and mildew to grow. I heard a very strange buzzing noise, like a large beetle or a large hornet or something, and every time I turned to look where I think it was, it disappeared. I could only make slight movements in my periphery before the thing disappeared again. I could never see what it was, but I knew something was there. I turned around quickly where I heard the scuttering, and at the last minute, I saw a very blurry figure, the size of my hamster, fly out the window. When I looked closely, I saw that very same, very thin slit between the screen and the top part of the window. I saw tiny scratch marks on the edge of the screen. And then, I put everything together. Surely a big bug or whatever that was couldn't fit through that screen, unless it had the strength to bend it outwards and squeeze himself through. No bug I know is strong enough to do that, and I'm almost certain that whatever it was a bug, although what I think I saw seemed to be much larger than the thing I remember feeling crawling on my leg. I was freaked out. I left. I never went back to that house. My husband insisted on going a few times just to get last-minute stuff, but it was only twice. And then we moved. Duchess, my husband and I were happy. I don't know what was going on at that house. I don't know what that thing was, but I have a feeling it was completely linked to what happened to my cat and my poor hamster. Everything was wonderful, and we had our happy ever after. My husband and I were talking at night as we got ready for bed. We were planning all the things that we would do with this house. Babe, why are you scratching your arm so much? I asked him. I don't know, something bit me earlier. Well, stop scratching it. You're gonna make it worse. I took his other hand he was using to scratch that one, and I led him into the bathroom. Come on, I'll take care of you. Baby, I'm fine, he said, more tired than usual. When I took up his arm to see where the bite was, I let out an abrupt scream. He looked down, equally as confused. Somehow, my husband had managed to remove the entirety of the skin from his forearm. He looked like he was in shock and claimed he didn't even feel it. He didn't even know that he was doing that much damage. As he quickly got something to wrap his arm and we prepared to go to the emergency room, I heard Duchess make a weird yowl, the same annoying cat sound she made before at the old house. And in my periphery, I saw something with many legs scuttling out of my view. Whatever this thing was, whatever was happening, it followed us here.